Chapter 2. Awareness. Awareness is the conglomeration of all sense. It is also the person, regardless of any practical senses. The hub of their conscious reality, prior to all influence and development. And also, the articulation of all learning, development, and conscious growth. Awareness includes all capacity of sense, physical, intellectual, emotional, and personal. Physical awareness is the map of all sensitive existence on or in a person's physical body. Intellectual awareness is the array of ration, reason, and understanding. It is also the conscious directory of information and learning, and the infrastructure of our internalized recognition of reality. Emotional awareness is dynamic and includes affectionate, traumatic, and anxious persuasion, and teeters in both intensity and framework according to how well our relationship is to any state of interaction, sentiment, or thought, and how we perceive these relationships. We can remain emotionally well, while ignorant of facts that would otherwise topple our sense of trust, truth, or security. By being lulled or misled by a sense of security, or a misrepresentation of truth. Personal awareness includes principle, belief, and sentiment, as relate to regard, concern, and consideration. Awareness overall is mostly one-sided. The bombardment of our senses with endless data, experienced without prejudice or preference. Processed, analyzed across many filters of conscious objection, taste, and agreement. And represented to our person as something to disregard, inspect, or personalize. The difference between this raw data and the redirected and redistributed information is the innate prerogative of our person. Our person is the standard we make in response to this wall of information. It's the personal reality of our identity, moral, and character. The foundational elements of self. And instantly and subconsciously this foundation screens every piece of data that we encounter. Perception versus perspective. 2 points of observation, often confused for the other, but very different in their advantage. Perception includes articulate thought, comprehension, and overall awareness, but excludes emotion, belief, and all manner of opinion, judgment, and fantasy. Perspective is not entirely about self-orientation, but I take the liberty of adapting its essence, so that what it means to me is understood more clearly. It is the viewpoint of our person, as governed by our individual personality. It is how we relate to reality, where we stand in matters of the heart, the world, and life. It is our opinions, our reflections, our beliefs, as personally interpreted, felt, and identifiable. The way we look at reality, in all its possibility, mystery, and struggle. Sentiment is a peculiar and particular attraction toward something, exceeding affection or bond, that gravitates toward a private and personalized sensation, so that the object of attraction is less relative to the person or their bond than the way they feel, and the way they feel becomes more the companion of their person than the actual object of their affection. Sentiment differs from normal affection by being the source of its own comfort, where affection itself is more a directed or aimed passion. It is specific, but it also represents a person's general feeling for anything at all that has some measure of meaning to the person, such as a choice word, a favorite team, the time or place of mesmerizing experience or energy that is sealed forever in their memory, something special to them, or some simple comfort. Emotion is a state of being, as it is, in reflection and reaction to the world, where reflection and reaction are sensational and personal. It's a sensitivity, as much as any, as is relative to our person, and not to our body. It is not intelligence, but reacts to intellectual understanding. It is not perspective, but is stimulated by perspective. It is not communication, but is instigated by communication. It is not awareness, but is inspired by awareness. And while it is none of these, it is influential to all of them: intelligence, perspective, communication, and awareness. Selfishness is the active and persistent need of an individual to satisfy their every thought and longing, with disregard to others and their needs or desires. Characteristically, it is a person that hoards, where opportunity is present, instead of sharing with others, whose vanity dismisses concern for others, favoring self-interests. Self-mindedness is the basic response and responsibility of all individuals, as opposed to selfishness, as constituting the whole, rather than the individual. To be self-minded, is to be human. It is the primary prerogative of the species, to create identity, to preserve self, and to maintain individualism. This is the nature of every free-thinking life form. Selflessness. The empathetic nature of being concerned for others, as by a passive consideration of their well-being. Unity, as different from equality, it is a shared interests, shared welfare, shared empathy, and shared being. It is a membership, which differs from an organization, by being an organism, rather than a collection of parts. The union, organization, and congregation are not a unity, as these are not governed by a mutual spirit, but exists more closely to a rally of individuals with individual concerns, that choose to agree on a topic or point that suits them mutually, but not as a whole, whose person is consciously, spiritually, or biologically bound together, such as the body of Christ, a family, or a team, whose interests are the same. Empathy is the shared pain, emotional stress, and well-being of others, as sensationally experienced within our own person. It is not pity, nor sympathy, but the realized state of another, in our own person. If two sisters lose a brother or another sister, then they both experience the loss in their own way, but also feel the pain of the other. By love and concern, they hurt one for the other, wishing they could take the other's pain away. But it is not sympathy or pity that they experience. Sympathy is a conscious regard, a swelling of sincerity within our person that recognizes hardship or injustice or formidable challenge in the life of others, and immediately considers them with a sense of unfairness, and with stirred well-wishing for the person enduring them. We can feel sympathy for our enemies, recognizing the common humanity within us both, and knowing how we would feel. Sympathy is an automatic response to natural understanding of mutual humanity or person, which is lost to war, politics, and self-grandeur, by the reconditioning of our original person, to callous and selfish athleticism of concern and consideration. Logic, ration, reason, and equation. Ration is the ability to remain neutral, maintain calm, and approach problems, situations, or complications with self-control and collected disposition. Reason is the ability to judge wisely, considering all intelligent data, or all data, that by respect, is most important and most relevant. It is not an approach to something, but rather a relation of things to a justified field of measure, in both observation and argument. Logic is an all-inclusive forfeit of sentiment, in the interest of recovering, or discovering what is most likely true, even if absolute truth is yet an unknown. Logic is sound in its strategy of approach, and removed in its application of examination. Equation is a formula of constitution, in which an equation represents a particular whole, in that an entire of anything requires all of its pieces together to make a whole, whether by consideration or presence. What equals a whole is by any division or separation of parts an equation, a statement of completion, a resolution of parts to form a whole. Both 1 and 8, for example, are each whole by their respective considerations. And if I want to find out what constitutes a whole 8, I'd examine what I know about it, and work out what I can to solve the unknown parts. 5 and 3 equal 8. But 5 and 2 do not. Yet, 5 and 2 and 1 do equal 8. And so do 6 and 2. And 2 and 3 and 3. Making any combination that equals 8, relevant to my search, and the rest, irrelevant. By consideration, any unit of measure can be a whole. Not in terms of whole numbers, alone, but in terms of being wholly. What is whole? What is needed to make a whole? What is sought, or what satisfies a query? Such considerations, in solving an equation, can be as complex as knowing only one street name, in a city of many streets, in which case, the unknown pieces of the equation are the street names not known. Reality is the ultimate equation. Belief is not theory, nor is it similar to theory. Both hold to something of unknown fact, as being true, but the manner in which they arrive at that conclusion is different. Theory requires an array of information to work with, and build a mental bridge to the answer. Belief requires nothing, no feats of partial truth or basis in reality. It asks for nothing, seeks nothing. It is instantly the answer and the conclusion, no time in transit. Belief has no foot in reality. It stands upon its own existence, and it is the sole authority from which its particular view of truth is right. Belief has many layers. The mind, the heart, the soul, they all have the power to believe, and a man can find himself doing something that his mind believes is right, but his heart or soul does not. And likewise, a man can starve because his heart or soul has made the decision to feed his neighbor's children instead of himself. Something his mind believes is wrong, but his heart thinks is right, while his soul trusts that the moral will have what he needs, so that all three can disagree, or not agree completely, or even agree in complete peace. Intelligence, sense and disposition are the sole elements of human awareness and being. All aspects of our conscious existence hover in this parallel field of possibility. Each of us is intelligent, respectively so. But our mind is convinced, given to agreement. Our logic and our rationalization and our beliefs and our opinions, all exist to us as sure. We accept them, believe them, live our lives convicted that they are right. We cannot see anything that we are not looking at, and we can never believe anything except what we believe. Truth for us is not the essence of a thing, or the properties of all things in existence, but that which we are personally convicted of. We can change our mind, but whatever our mind believes is true, is going to be the full extent of our understanding on the matter, and the limitation of our understanding of truth. Limitations, humanity is at the mercy of its own comprehension. It advances, or it stalls, or goes backwards, according to what it understands, how it understands it, and how it relates to that understanding. In any manner of diligence or campaign, as beings of intellectual, moral, social, geographic, and personal regard and respect, the constitution of self includes morals, character, religion, and belief. And these, like money, have value and an integrity. Religion and beliefs are separate issues. Beliefs deal with the circumstances of reality, and how we relate to them from a personal involvement, or empathy. Religion deals with the question of cosmic origin, divine life, and man's submission, place, and humility, in the grand order of reality, where supreme intelligence is doubtless and sure. Be it self, man, gods, or God, as being the deity of the religion. Character is the degree of our sway in the face of compromise and contest. It is the firmness of our stance on any challenge or topic, and our unshakable footing in the face of wrong. Lack of character is fear, self-preservation, and spinelessness. In personal government, or any institution of conscious participation and governing, morals are the principles that underlay our beliefs, provide foundations, and offer strong direction when no clear view is available. Morals are our most basic understanding. Before any interaction of worldly pace has influenced our structured understanding of what is right, wrong, or fair judgment, to establish truth, we must establish falsities. To establish falsities is to exercise the muscles of judgment. Judgment is a necessity to human understanding, a part of our awareness and development, and essential to all our relationships. To judge is to suppose/conclude/or impose a conscious frame around an otherwise invisible, possibly non-existent, mechanic or dynamic of something's existence. When lines are drawn, they create a visual representation, giving the outline of form to something that is not real within the framework of historical reality. Like the borders of a city. In like manner of representation, lines are drawn in thoughts and communications, creating an intangible framework that is tangible to the mind, as defined by judgment. Frame, to frame something, is to establish the practical borders and boundary of everything existing within that boundary, such as a yard. But you can also have multiple frames within a larger frame, such as a yard, with a house, with a family of four, in a specific neighborhood, within a specific city, that has a unique name. It depends purely on the angle of your consideration. as to what frame you are looking at. The mind, the emotion, and the disposition of a person are all parts of our psychological person and framing, with each characteristic behaving, perceiving, and concluding differently. Everything that makes us able to function in reality, thought, feeling, and expression, are part of our general psychological frame. Psychological frame, it is the totality of our conscious framework. In the essence of relationship, how we interpret our relationship to everything, to ourself, and everything, to ourself. That is, what makes us an emotional mess, a hailstorm of thoughts, a social deviant, or a well-rounded individual. And it is perhaps a deeper, more complex aspect of our personality and subconscious, to the point of being an uncharted mystery. Despite what human catalog may suggest, the war within, in some ways, our psychological makeup is the war within, between rational and irrational, sanity and insanity. What's morality, will, and every will and uncharted territory of our deeper conscious levels, all trying to play together, and get along. And that frame, or playground, is the breaking point. It is the borders of what a person can tolerate emotionally, mentally, or principally. The borders of what a person has subconsciously elected to be acceptable or unacceptable, not as beliefs and principles, but as the gears and cogs of our function, person, and personality. Trust, to trust self, is natural, wise, and a learned instinct. As we know by discovery, that we can't trust others. To trust in self, is foolish, deadly, and the groundworks of failure, corruption, and self-deception. It is also the subconscious practice of self-righteous religion, dictatorship, and every intelligent ration that justifies violence and murder. Trust is a queer sensation. Not physical in origin. Not emotional in origin. Not an aspect of intelligence, or a focus of our person. Not a state of mind. Not a psychological outlook. Yet, experienced, sure as standing in the rain. It is also a trainable reflex that is impaired or adapted by prejudice, emotion, environment, state of mind, and so on. Trust is the religion we are born with. Before any doctrines, traditions, or preaching, it's the magic and mystery of our universal connection and foundation. Psyche, to be aware, is to experience, to be vulnerable, to be in the vastness of reality, not as a lifeless thing, but as thought, as feeling. It is to be more than matter or molecule,